the area were to open that up and to link to create new accesses so that you have a finer grade of development in here, keep more of the existing buildings, and then selectively replace other buildings with new buildings which are accessed either from the surrounding streets or internally off the courtyards. And the political situation at the time was you had the King's Inns Partnership, wanted to try and drive regeneration in the area. You had Islington Council, who had seen a blighted area which with lots of social problems and really were desperate to see some change happen, whatever it was. And they were probably going to support the independent commission, but when English Heritage put forward a counter proposal, they were successful in opening up that debate, and P&O were persuaded to actually have a rethink. They got in new firm architects, RHWL, yes, who then did the detailed scheme for the buildings that we actually see at the moment. It's happening. And it's been done over an incremental process over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. It's about 19 starting with this block and working progressively down. Here, that's the final. Yep. We've just been looking through this. This is still a construction, but that's the link that's going to link into Crillon Street, and then of course King's Place is up here, and into the railway lands is just off to the west and top. So what you can see now is that each of these courtyards that had existed have been linked up all the way through the blocks. Now, I suppose you could say that for a number of the objectives it's actually been successful. In terms of English heritage objectives, they did keep a lot of the historic buildings that give character to the area. They have got them into new uses. That's been successful in those terms. In terms of the commercial success of the development, by all accounts, P&O did very well the scheme.
Are these all offices?
No, this is resi.
Right.
It's mostly offices.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that this plan shows very well is that there were always, all along this side, privately owned houses backed onto this. So this is all private residential properties. They weren't part of the development, and so P&O basically had to weave in all that's on the back of those private homes. And whether or not that's still a potential tension in terms of how the space is used is something that we have to guess at. But it's interesting that one important group that we would have liked to have been here today is actually the managing agents.
I just had a chance to chat to one of the office workers there, and I asked her why you guys are actually not outside, and she said we're not allowed because it's a public space, and we're not allowed to be outside. Well, I think, but it's not used as public space because the gate is so big, and people think they just rather use the street because they think it's private.
But
and that's probably the
if
reason
it's
why
public, they're allowed outside.
No chairs,
Yes.
and she was, I'm not a psychologist, but she was positively nervous about the question, actually.
Well, it's interesting because we've spoken to some of the businesses, for instance E.C. Harris, who have really the biggest building, speaking to them, and their view is, well, we've got big meeting spaces, we can do events, we can do them all internally, so we'd rather not use the outside space.
But I suspect that it's that mentality. In order to have got it to work like this in the first place, they probably did have to do what they did.
Yeah.
And then, after 4 or 5 years, they can ease off.
As once I was walking through, there is a bit of a problem because this is not a route that goes anywhere. It doesn't start anywhere. It's not a natural desire line. These may be, but this
It'll be a little bit better when the next one is open.
Well, it could only be if you've had something at each end.
Which at the far end you've got King's Place.
Or if you could see through, which you
Well, you've
can't.
got the King's Place service.
as you said.
No, sorry, you've got the. Let's start with where the activities are and the anchors.
Yeah.
The anchors exist at the different places. What you have to do, and actually the environment exists in terms of a lot of money's been spent this very easily, but actually what you haven't got is the management of it and the desire to retrofit some of the bits to make it work. I mean, that would need a lot of getting a sort of vision of what you want to do.
Yeah.
The question is how do you get that to happen If you even bother, I don't know, but it seems to me a
I
terrible
don't think
waste.
you do need to retrofit it, because if you think about the way in which the food offer is being transformed with trucks, for example, and with kiosks and so on and so forth. I mean, you could easily have a kiosk in here selling coffee to all these people around here.
You can limit it to
tables and
lunchtime.
chairs.
That's a very good study.
Doesn't disturb
So ultimately you then get, well, you know, the next thing would be then you actually get a shopping there.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of that, but the transitional one will be, of course, to bring in temporary uses.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, talking about life in general, that the area lacks a bit of life. I mean, there's really no one here.
Just a little bit of
We were also overwhelmed in general by the urban. Not so much of this area, but I mean, we were talking about York Way, for example. We thought it was a very aggressive street, and in general, I mean, it's very loud. There's some, I mean, it's not nice. It's not pleasant. It's not inviting to be there. And also, I mean, for us, what we found is that people know King's Cross, but they don't really know Regent's Quarter. I didn't know about it until I started working on it. So I think maybe there's a potential there to just make it a more known place so that people can start using it.
But that's a bit like chicken and the egg, I'm afraid.
Yes.
You know.
Big enjoyment, because all they're allowed to do is to stay indoors. And we feel that you, your managers, should be looking at how you can manage better, still protecting people, but allowing things to happen, so they feel more free to be able to come out and sit around and do things better.
So at the moment this is sending live data through to our dashboard, which we worked on with IBI. I'm not sure whether you can see this, but this is just showing how many devices we've detected from one point to this central point. You can see how long it's taking. Because of the low footfall at the moment, it's not going to show anything too interesting. But you can see from, let's take one for example, from Albion Yard over there to here, it's taken someone 31 seconds. That's based on an average of 2 devices that we've seen in the past 5 minutes. So even though it's a low footfall, you can still see it's something accurate. From here, from the central point to York Way over that side, that's 1 minute 49 seconds. So we can see whether people are just walking straight through or they're dwelling at a certain time. With more devices, we put them in different courtyards, see where people are stopping, why they're stopping, how long they're stopping for.
It could be just like a small place where you have a coffee, or it could be, you know, just like deck chairs, what is mentioned. But young urbanists have a few ideas they would like to share. But then after, I think it's just to have that dialogue. Could there be very small intervention, and they don't have to happen every day. But next year, could there be a day where we just organize something on this square with the residents and the companies? Is that something that could happen, or actually what maybe should happen?
So I have another suggestion to make before you do that. Just picking up on something you said, how do we get things to happen, people to move? And something about maybe running some sort of an event in which you invite representatives of all the people who have private places come together. We ought to pick the one that's used the best at the moment. We ought to look around and think which is the one of the private places which is really, the best managed from the point of view of being a place people want to be, and then ask them if we can hold an event there and get everyone who owns these other places, whether it's P&O, whether it's land or whatever, to go there and then to have an event where they can all discuss how that's working. Because it seems to me it's all about learning from one another. I'm sorry.
And just to carry on that, I think, I mean, it makes a perfect link, because for us the whole idea of this was how to turn a place around. So how to turn this place around. And in order to do so, we thought about ideas that attract people to places. So first of all, we thought that people attract other people. So if people already use the space, then other people will start using it, which is not something that we can see here. Then also just some physical amenities. I mean, I think this is the case. If you have some seats, people can come and just sit, enjoy the area. Have some shading sometimes too, if it's sunny outside. Also maybe other physical amenities such as water that just are appealing for people. And then other things such as food and drinks that will always attract people. If there's some food, people will come to the place. If there's some drinks, people will come to the place.
So what we did when we best it is. We just drew a really rough sketches of our ideas, and you'll notice as you're walking through the atmosphere of the courtyard kind of changes, and the one that we're going to go to next further down is much more lively, and I think it's quite to do with the uses. We notice it's a lot more this restaurant, gym and whatnot, but yeah, I think this is just trying to capture some of our ideas about intimacy and noise and levels of activity, and we feel that the final courtyard might be something which we could actually try and replicate further up throughout the development.
However, we think it would be interesting because there are 3 different courtyards or more if you consider the things, to give them their own identity, and possibly it could be everyone's necessities and ideas could be satisfied if we graduate the activities that carry on in each courtyard. So we thought of a transitional situation where the most active area would be closer to King's Cross, and the more intimate area would be related to the more privately owned housing area, etc. Also, using the wall outside as an opportunity is something that we saw that it's as the people who know the area know the power of that wall, and we need to turn that around as well and make it, instead of a problem, a wall that is a problem, to turn to a wall that it's an opportunity. And in that sense, the idea was we'll have some images afterwards, but to use it as a platform for artwork and advertising and giving information to people about the area, what's happening, how it became what it is.
This is in York Way, isn't it?
Yes.
York Way, using it.
Yes.
Because it's kind of an entering for the courtyards, so people will know about this, and if we have that exposed, people will know it. And also in that structure, radiant structure, starting from the courtyard that we didn't have access, that's a question mark, because we don't know exactly what's happening or what will be happening. The courtyard where we were just now, we thought about having, as it was more intimate, having the water features, it's a more peaceful area, semi-formal seating would be needed as well, as we all noticed. Maybe a coffee stand, portables. I thought someone, Honoré, even asked for someone to come here with one of those movable stands of coffee. But they know there's no one here, so it's not profitable.
Yeah.
So we think we need to get people here to make those things profitable as well. It's a cycle, it's a vicious cycle. And that area as well for networking, because we have so many businesses here and they are not seeing the potential of networking in them and gaining businesses from one another, and that will be also useful. And the courtyard that we see next, then that will be more the food, the drinks, the loudiness, the more physically active, and we'll see why afterwards. We say here outside yoga because there's a gym. It's a completely different atmosphere, and we'll see when we get there.